Yeah, I see the title, man. Let's get to it. I'm back in the
Michael
motherfucker.
Jordan is widely recognized as the greatest player of all time. If that statement triggers you, then you're not acknowledging reality. In nearly
Nah,
every
for
poll
real.
I've ever seen, Jordan is almost always voted as the greatest player in NBA history.
That's a fact.
It doesn't
That's a fact. I ain't gonna lie. Everybody, I ain't gonna lie, bro. It took me a while to realize Jordan's greatness, but once you get over yourself and just wanting to be correct, you know, cause I I ain't gonna lie, I wouldn't believe I was wrong. I didn't think I was wrong. Like I was bugging, like, but I came to my senses and realized like the the things that LeBron James had accomplished up until this point is just not good enough to surpass Michael Jordan's greatness in the amount of time. You know what I'm saying? Mike did what he had to do. You feel me? Like LeBron going in his 21st season and he still ain't do it. He still ain't do what Jordan did.
doesn't matter if it's ESPN, Bleacher Report, or a modern player's survey. The only time I can recall Jordan losing one of these polls was when a giant LeBron fan page hosted one. Other than that very specific instance, MJ seems to be the clear choice for most people as the greatest player of all time. It makes sense because whenever it was game time, you knew MJ was gonna come through with his best effort, which is why today's video is brought to you by Game Time. I remember several times
Get your buddy, my boy.
from your last minute snap terms off player is the here's the thing. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now here's the thing, beyond Jordan's greatness as an overall basketball player is the mystique of his character. Many people are caught up in the brand and the reverence for MJ, to the point that they act like he's a literal basketball god, who simply cannot fail or be outclassed in any way, shape, or form. Although Michael is my choice as the greatest player ever, I do not side with this crowd of what I call Jordan stans, because it goes beyond the respect for his game and becomes some sort of irrational emotional bias tied to something that truly gains them nothing at the end of the day. So with that being said, how can we honestly evaluate Michael Jordan as a defensive player? To many Jordan stans, he is unquestionably the greatest defensive player to ever live. But is that too much? Have we elevated
I ain't gonna lie, I never heard nobody say that. Like the greatest defensive player of all time. I heard people say one of the best perimeter defenders of all time and guards, like you know, one of the best guards at defender of all time. But I never heard nobody say the best defender of all time for Michael Jordan. I never heard
categories
that.
where we shouldn't, simply because of his insistent fan base. Some would suggest so, and some even go as far as saying that MJ belongs nowhere near the conversation of the greatest defenders of all time. But is that not giving him enough credit? Today, I'm doing my best to get to the bottom of this, as I'll try to give a solid and honest assessment on the standing of Michael Jordan as strictly a defensive player. First off, let's see what Jordan accomplished as a defensive player. In his career, he's tied for the most first-team
I'm trying to remember all the games I don't watch. You know, the defensive plays. Jordan was everywhere. You know, Jordan was definitely everywhere. He made himself known on the defensive end. You know, you had to be aware of where he was at on the court. You know, is that like?
defensive selections
I
with
can't
a total
remember
of
too
9,
much from back
which
in
is
the day.
equaled by Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, and
joint.
Gary Payton.
Or-
With that being said, MJ only had 9 all-defensive selections, even if you include second team as well. In the case of Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett, they both have more overall all-defensive selections. Now MJ did win the Defensive Player of the Year award in 1988, which is a rare feat for a guard, as only 6 guards in NBA history have won the award. With that being said, MJ doesn't have the most at the position, as the former Milwaukee Bucks star Sidney Moncrief won the award twice, in 1983 and 1984. Now some might think that MJ's Defensive Player of the Year victory may have been a fluke result, but that couldn't be further from the truth, as Jordan finished in the top 5 spots of the Defensive Player of the Year voting in 7 separate seasons. including the runner-up spot in 1993 behind only Hakeem Olajuwon. The fact that Jordan got the DPOY runner-up in '93 is truly astonishing when you consider the fact that he was up against healthy competitors like David Robinson, Dennis Rodman, Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing, and Dikembe Mutombo. So,
yeah, people saying it's a fluke because he only won it one time. That's just disingenuous, you know? Or maybe they're just not aware of how many times he was in the top 5, you know, or the time he came in second, you know? So it's like...
obviously, from an accolade standpoint, Jordan is extremely proven. You can debate whether or not he's the most proven guard defensively when it comes to the hardware, but without question, he's certainly in the conversation. Now, as I've mentioned before, you can certainly make the argument that the defensive accolades are somewhat skewed in favor of the more popular players, seeing how the awards are all based on voting results and not on objective facts. What is objective is the defensive statistics, which indicate what actually happened on the court. It comes as no surprise that MJ was a monster statistically on the defensive end. He's actually 4th on the NBA's all-time steals list,
Sheesh.
and he also has the 3rd highest steals per game average in NBA history, trailing only Michael Ray Richardson and Alvin Robertson. Thanks to his tremendous strength, his massive hands, and his intelligence, he was able to achieve all of these steals as he actually led the NBA in 3 separate seasons in steals per game. His 3 league-leading seasons is the second most in NBA history, trailing only Chris Paul, who did it a total of 6 times. MJ was also a bit of a gambler on defense, but it often paid off as he would frequently jump the passing lanes and would often trap the offensive ball handler as the help defender. Beyond that, Jordan was also one of the greatest shot-blocking guards in NBA history, and some even think he was the best. Depending on how you break down the stat, Jordan either has the 1st or 2nd best career average for blocks per game, right beside Dwayne Wade. Jordan also has the highest single-season average by a guard in NBA history, when he blocked 1.6 shots per game in 1988, which happened to be the year that he won the Defensive Player of the Year. In his career, Jordan also led all guards.
Yo, I just yo, boy. That's a crazy picture. That's a crazy picture. You know, putting your hand on the backboard like this, under the backboard like this. You know, your head is above it. As beast.
And defensive win shares a total of 7 times. Now, as I've talked about in the past, Jordan was a more risky defender than, say, Scottie Pippen. Scottie didn't usually get as many blocks and steals as Jordan did. But what Scottie did do well was smother the offensive player so intensely with his on-ball defense that it basically forced him into a bad shot or a bad pass.
That's one of the reasons why I don't really like using the stats to really, you know what I'm saying, what's the word I'm looking for? I know the word I'm looking for. That's why I don't like using stats, bro. You know, I like using the eye test to really pre what's going on, and you see the stats in real time. So it's not like you're not using the stats, but you're seeing the stats.
Although Jordan is certainly the more impressive defensive player based on his statistics, there is still an argument on who's the greater defender, because much of Pippen's defensive impact doesn't actually show up on the stat sheet. A perfect example of a player like that is their all-time great defensive teammate Dennis Rodman, who had very modest steals and blocks averages, yet is widely considered as one of the best defenders ever. I'm not saying that Jordan wasn't a great on-ball defender like Pippen was. I'm just saying that their styles were slightly different, as MJ was willing to spend more of his defensive effort as a lurker and as a player who took more risks, which can be a great thing or a bad thing depending on how he executes. Some other great perimeter...
I feel like those styles like just work together very well, you understand? Because when Scotty's up there pressuring the ball, you understand? He's not risking nothing. He's not being risky on these. He's just pressuring them. He's just pressuring them, trying to get the ball out their hands. Then you got Mike over there lurking. He's lurking for the pass. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you going with that, Mike might get that. Be careful. You know what I'm saying? that works very well together. I feel like they did that, like, that probably just just happened, I guess you could say, you know? You know what I'm saying? They found their roles on defense, I guess you could say.
Defenders like Gary Payton, Michael Cooper, and Sidney Moncrief may have not been the statistical monster that Jordan was defensively, but that was a benefit that MJ enjoyed as a more risky defender. So to automatically assume that he was a better defensive player simply because of the statistics would be a reckless assumption. For example, even a middle-of-the-pack defender like Tracy McGrady appears to be ahead of the all-time great Dennis Rodman when you simply look at their surface-level defensive stats. Based on the stats, the accolades, the personal testimonies, and the eye test, Jordan certainly belongs in the conversation of the greatest perimeter defenders in NBA history. Now, is he on top of my list of great defensive guards? Well, it's tough to say, because I can make an argument for several of them. But what I will say is that it is a Jordan stan move to call him the greatest defender of all time. He only has one Defensive Player of the Year award, and a couple guys have got as many as 4. He never once led the NBA in defensive win shares, and a player like Bill Russell did that 11 times. Simply put, I think it's ridiculous to try to give the title of the greatest defender ever to any player who doesn't play at the center position. Because of the pivotal aspect of rim protection, a perimeter defender should never take that title over a center, simply because the impact of the 5 spot is simply too valuable on the defensive end of the floor. So what do you guys think?
Fact.
How do you rank Michael Jordan?
The 5-man just helps everybody out. Everybody, you know. Yeah, bro. I feel, bro, in that. But let me know how y'all feel in the comments. Turn on post notifications, like the video, comment, and subscribe. Click on the last reaction over here. Join the membership. I'm out of here, man. I gotta get crazy. I'm back on my, you know what I'm saying?